First of all, I just wanted to say that on behalf of the family and friends of Deirdre Ann Vitale Wilson, if you didn't know, that was all her names. I just want to welcome you and thank you so much for coming today to honor her life, her memory, and to find comfort and strength from God and one another today. So I introduced myself earlier, but if you weren't here, my name is Heidi Messner, and I am Mark Wilson's daughter. So Dee Dee was my stepmom, and she was like, we were closer in age, so she was like a big sister to me. We talked nearly every day. We were very close. And her and I had a lot of similar interests, and so we connected very dearly. She was an amazing woman, and while this time together, this loss that's brought us together, is sad on the one hand, we actually hope that today will be a time of just celebrating this woman who impacted all of us. And so we recognize that, of course, there will be a range of emotions, and that's okay. There are plenty of napkins if you need tissue. We have some really soft white ones over here that people can grab. But this will be really a time of spending, sharing with one another. So we actually have a videographer. If you haven't seen him already, he's wandering around. And what's his name? Micah. So Micah is on the video, and he is going to continue to walk around and see you guys. But later on, we are going to ask anyone who wants to share a memory or something about Dee Dee. And so I will have this mic. I won't make you come up here, but you'll have to come kind of close because the cord's not that long. So be thinking about that because we will have some time to do that as well. One of the things that Dee Dee did was she valued people a lot. And so that was one of her values, was just friends and family. And so as you look around, you'll see all her friends and family that are here. There's this love that she had for people. And when she was with people, you couldn't not know that you're in the presence of joy. She just had a joy and exuberance about her. And so we're going to talk about that a little more today. But one of the values that she had was her relationship with God. She really had a deep relationship with Jesus, and her and I actually spent a lot of time over the last year talking a lot about her favorite scriptures, and we'll share some of those as well. But if you have one of the programs, there are some of them in there for you also to remember them by. But before we continue on, I just want to invite our God to come and be a part of this. So Lord, Heavenly Father, we just come before you today, and we first of all ask for your strength and your comfort and love. We thank you that you loved Dee Dee so much, that you gave us the opportunity to be a part of her life. Lord, that you brought her into our life to bring more joy, more delight. Lord, I thank you that she is looking down and she is no longer in pain, that she is celebrating with you and awaiting our time that we get to be with her again one day. And so, Lord, I pray that as we spend this time together, you will give us grace and peace and joy and love, and that we will bring to our remembrance, Lord, the things that we remembered about her that could be shared with others so we can be strengthened and encouraged as well. Amen. So the song As the Deer was a song that they sang together every night before Dee Dee went to bed. And so her grandson, Sean, and I don't know what granddaughter, Carolyn, Sean and Carolyn are going to go ahead and play and sing that song for us right now.
Test. Hey, just to clarify, it was Peace that you guys sang at night, right?
Yeah, she wanted me to stroke her head every night. You know, Dee Dee was in bed, not all of you know. She was in bed on her back inside that window for 294 days and couldn't turn over. And she wasn't in pain all the time until the very end, but still you can't move. You know? and her view of the world was through this one window. I got to give some compliments to the Gaslight Players for the city of Oakland because they had a big production here, and they offered to come stand right in the right place where they could all wave at her. But she was asleep. But anyway, she couldn't move a lot of body parts as time went on, and so it was always foot massages and all that. And so I would stroke her. She liked to have her head stroked at night, and I would sing the piece for her. She knew that song. She liked old songs, so she would sing that with me. That's how she would sing.
As the deer pant before the water, so my soul longeth after thee. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship thee. You alone are my strength, my shield. To you alone may my spirit yield. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship you. You're my friend, and you are my brother, even though you are a king. I love you more than any other, so much more than anything. You alone are my strength, my shield. To you alone may my spirit yield. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship you. And I long to worship you. And I long to worship you.
Dee Dee didn't go to church. She was agoraphobic, afraid of crowds. We met at a church. I cold called her because some guy told me there was this really cute girl at his church. He asked me if I'd ever visited the church. I said, yeah. He said, did you meet Dee Dee Vitale? And I said, I don't think so. He said, well, if you ever met her, you wouldn't forget her because she's really cute and really sweet. So I called information where the church was, Milner Park, and I said, do you have a phone number for Dee Dee Vitale? Got one for Deirdre Vitale. I'll take it. I cold called her. I said, I'm single. I'm looking for someone cute and sweet. And John says you're both of those. She was in New York with her mother. Click. But I'm persistent. So 2 more weekends in a row I cold called her. The 3rd weekend I mentioned I worked at a law office, and she dreamt she would marry a lawyer. So she called me. So I was ready to move in. She said, I don't know you from Adam, you could be Jack the Ripper. She said, I have an idea where we could go that would be safe. I said, where's that? She said, church. That sounds like a rip-roaring first date. So we went to this church. She got out of her Jeep. They were fashionable to have shoulder pads on women back then. I thought a halfback was coming at me. So I instantly, being a stupid male, wrote her off based on really dumb things. She looked at me and she wasn't all that thrilled either. So we go in the church. It's the last time she's ever been in a church. We're sitting in the church, and I'm not a dick. But I really kind of like the girl to the left. I think she looks really hot. I'm like, how do I get this girl's number without sending this one? And something happened, and those in the family know what happened, but I said, we better go outside. So we went outside, trying to find out if there's anything in common. I'll pretend you're Dee Dee. Hey, what did you do last week for fun? Oh, I'm so glad you asked. I went to an art show. Okay, wrong. So she asked me, well, what did you do last weekend? My whole family, we all just went skydiving. She's like, I would never do that. Well, we're trying to dig out, right? What about 2 weeks ago? So glad you asked. It was even better. I went to an antique show. I know how you spell antiques. In my world at the time, D-O-R-I-N-G. I'm like, what? I'm not even some old lady. But she was dang cute. So she asked me, what'd you do the weekend before? I don't know. You really want to know? Yeah. So I got invited to a news what do you call them, news colony? And I went. She said, I would never do that. So we drove out of the parking lot. She turned right, I turned left, and both of us had the same thought. There's something refreshing about that person. Too bad I'll never see him again. 6 months later, she called me out of the blue and said, would you like to take a walk? A walk? I ride my bike to San Francisco and back for fun on the weekend. A walk? But I was desperate. I was lonely. So I drove up to the park. Because we got to church, I didn't kill her. She went to a park. Pull up and I was there, and she just was wearing what you saw in that picture with the dog. And when I saw the meter, and I went, oh. This is a thumbnail, you know. She had a t-shirt on and whatever you call those types. Leggings. I said, oh, she's actually kind of cute. She's adorable. So we went on a 4-hour walk and talked. I told her I was thinking we should move in. She was not thinking that at all. So for 2 years we dated. We never had sex. You think that was my idea? No! Dee Dee was a very good girl. So she went to the church one time with me, never been to church again. But Jesus was number one in her life. She loved Jesus. So she didn't like churchy. She didn't like people that were pushy. But she personally loved Jesus. Prayed every day. And it was a real part of her life. So in the eulogy, I talk about that a little bit. So. We didn't go around singing hymns all day at all. And we had lots of sex. After we're married. He used to always say, you never know what's going to come out of the mouth of the man.
I've pretty much known that one.
So this song was what my dad told me. That's my dad, by the way, if you can't tell. Apparently they sang this song together.
Is it the piece? Yeah, she would go to sleep.
They'd sing this together when my dad would kind of put her to sleep. So. What a treasure I have in this wonderful peace, buried deep in the heart of my soul. so secure that no power can mine it away, while the years of eternity roll. Peace, peace, wonderful peace, coming down from the Father above. Sweep over my spirit, forever I pray, in the fathomless billows of love. I am resting tonight in this wonderful peace, resting sweetly in Jesus' control. For I'm kept from all danger by night and by day, and His glory is flooding my soul. With peace, peace, wonderful peace, coming down from the Father above. Sweep over my spirit, forever I pray, in the fathomless billows of love. And I think when I rise to that city of peace, where the anchor of peace I shall see, that one strain of the song which the ransom will sing, in the heavenly kingdom will be. Peace, peace, wonderful peace, coming down from the Father above. Sweep over my spirit, forever I pray, in the fathomless billows of love. My soul, are you here without comfort and rest, marching down truth's pathway of time? Make Jesus your friend ere the shadows grow dark. Oh, accept His peace so divine. Peace, peace, wonderful peace, coming down from the Father above. Sweep over my spirit, forever I pray, in the fathomless billows of love. Sweep over my spirit, forever I pray, in the fathomless billows of love.
That was beautiful. My dad's going to read the eulogy now that he wrote for Dee Dee, just so you guys, we saw pictures, but so that you can also hear lots of things about her life that maybe some of you didn't know. So I certainly didn't know all of them. And I think he pulled some things from all over the place. So here you go.
Can you hear me okay? Is this good? Okay. Deirdre Ann Vitale was truly one of a kind. Born May 27th, 1958 at Stanford Hospital in Palo Alto, California, which, by the way, her father ran, she was quickly nicknamed Little Miss Sunshine. Her huge heart, enormous smile, and big eyes always radiated from her guileless, that's a key word in her life, she was guileless, rare, gentle, fun, and caring soul. Raised in a large extended Italian family, group gatherings were the norm. Dee Dee was known as the prankster in partnership with her lifetime friend Lori Goran. I got a call last night from an American Airlines pilot who flew 747s out of San Francisco for a long time and and we had known him, and he's a relative of hers. He called me last night, and he said, I have to tell you a prank she pulled on me. I have to show you. Okay, you all see little Shirley Temple back in the day? Okay, Dee Dee rode horses, and she was 11 years old taking care of Gary at the time, and she came out wearing these, and she said, Gary, there's something they don't tell you. When you turn 11, they shoot the stuff into your hips, and you're going to get really big like this. And she scared the heck out of him. That's a side of Dee Dee you didn't see as much up here. She was the prankster. So anyway, let me get back to where I was.
You were telling about the airline pilot.
Well, he was the one it happened to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying because it wasn't clear. Yeah, when he was a little kid, that happened. He said she was constantly pranking me. Yeah, okay. The two of them loved cooking up. You're going to see this other girl. Well, you saw her, Cowshine. They call her Cowshine. Just because that's a butchery of the word cucina, I think, in Italian, which means girlfriend or something. So they call each other Cowshine. Took me forever to figure out what that was all about. The two of them loved cooking up practical jokes to play on family members, laughed about to this day by her cousin Jackie, her Aunt Laverne, and many other family members. In a minute, I'm going to call them. They're going to tell you a few of them because I don't know them. And they want to be a part of this, so I'll do that on the side. Her parents, Frank and Grace, added a little brother, Greg, to the family. Where's Greg? Greg's back there, tall, dark, handsome, darker than normal with a mask. The siblings remained in daily contact all her life. Big sister introduced Greg to the antique business where both of them thrived. They were closer as a brother and sister than any I've ever seen. After graduating with a degree in interior design, she met Mark Wilson. They married 2 years later, moved to Oakland. Dee Dee quickly adapted to her small town, adding a menagerie of pets, including Jasper, a miniature pony, numerous pet sheep, chickens, cats, and dogs. A music lover, she surrounded herself with 22 ukuleles from all over the world, which she enjoyed playing. As a multi-talented artist, she made and sold many hundreds of fabric rugs, hook rugs, etc., she created, as well as custom soaps in 4 different states. She also did a masterful job of taking older homes and remodeling them. She loved working with contractors and solving building problems, creating wonderful spaces for others. She would dream about that kind of stuff at night. Like, to me, that's a nightmare. She dreamed about it like it's a good thing. Never did get it. Yeah. Yeah. These were steps Dee Dee took to enhance the lives of those who would live there. She saw it as a ministry. On the last day when she could talk and I understand her, she did 2 things. She woke up in the morning. I sang the song. I always sing Good Morning Beautiful. And she had a bell that she would ring, up to 5 times an hour while I'm sleeping. But the bell was wonderful because if she needed whatever, I was there. Well, she couldn't even hit the bell anymore. But she woke up and she lifted her hand about this high. Angie is here, who was a physical therapist for upper body. And Ron is here, who is a physical therapist for lower body. And they were wonderful people. And they still are. They're right here. She lifted her hand up about this high, laying on the bed, and said, I have to do my exercises. I have to do Angie's exercises because I have to get out of this bed. And she never quit fighting to get out. But the other thing was a big smile came on her face. And she said, I dreamt last night that this house over here, she said, I dreamt last night that I was remodeling this room for a little boy, which has certain meaning between, am I looking at? Yes, I am. Yeah. Is it a boy? We don't know yet. Oh, you don't know yet. Okay. Anyway, she said, I dreamt I was remodeling this room for this little boy, and there needed to be a bookcase, and I found just the right one. And she was just gleaming because she did houses for people, not for money. We have rentals. We've never charged normal rents. All of our renters are friends. They usually stay 7 to 9 years because we don't raise the rent. That's one reason. But but we're friends. We just get along. We care about them. We go to their kids' stuff and all that kind of stuff. That was Dee Dee. It was all about people. So she saw it as a ministry. That's absolutely true. She loved to decorate the windows at Tolly's, which is a restaurant downtown for locals, with her friend Carolee Stevens, and they did this for years for free as a gift to the town, Tolly's and passersby. Agoraphobia limited Dee Dee's travels, even away from the house, but she always went to the barn a block away to take care of her farm animals, usually under cover of darkness. She grew over 100 antique roses in her yard and often met people when they walked by. Her radiant smile, her quick wit, man, she had a quick brain, readiness to always help others with anything, her creative mind will be missed by all. She truly was unique and special to so many. The Wilson clan, too many to mention, quickly adopted Dee Dee into their family as one of their own. My first wife, we married on my 17th birthday. I told Betty today I was 17 going on 12. And we stayed together 20 years, which I think is pretty remarkable, regard two 17-year-old kids. She was 4 days older than me. But we stayed together 20 years, divorced. These kids adopted second wife right? I mean, there's just no question. They absolutely adore Dee Dee. Plus, they always said, you finally got a good one. Because I kept dating, right? It's like, nope, scratch. Remember Char? There was a girl named Char I was dating, and they said, oh, I don't know what that means. Oh, yeah. Well, the point is the whole family called her Char because she was hard, and I couldn't see it. I was dumb. And then Dee Dee came along. She was so different. You met her and you said, she's delightful, which is what everybody would say. They'd meet her and go, my gosh, she's delightful. Yeah. The Wilson family, too many, quickly adopted her totally. Grandchildren, Alicia, Levi, Cassie, Jackie, Kelsey, and River loved to spend weeks in the summer under her fun tutelage. Always smiling, laughing, made Dee Dee popular with just about everyone. The most common response to meeting Dee Dee for the first time was usually, she's delightful. Mr. H, honey, that's what she always called me, Mr. H, was privileged to enjoy her presence from 1994 when they married until Monday, September 20th, 2021, when she passed away peacefully at home after a multi-year battle with breast cancer, with him at her side each and every day. Though Dee Dee didn't go to church, she loved Jesus daily. You have to remember, she's a designer of houses. And is now the recipient of the promise he made, I go to prepare a place for you. As an interior designer with very specific ideas, it must be special indeed. There's some things about Dee Dee that you do not know. Nobody here in this room, well, some people know this story, but very few. But Dee Dee, when she walked back, I said she didn't change when she went home, but I misled you a little bit. She would scream and yell at me. Scream to the top of her lungs, screaming at me. But it only happened once. I had become a new cop in our little town. And I got a call from the bar from my sergeant, and he said, there's a bar fight. Get your ass down here now. So I'm throwing all my cop stuff, right? I'm pretty intimidating, I'm sure, in a bar site situation. Dee Dee, who's scared of a lot of things, including losing Mr. Honey, kind of sizes up the situation and says, you shouldn't go. I got to go. It's my sergeant. Then she screamed, if you walk out that door, you just went from a hero to a zero in my book, Buster.
He went, but he moved from a zero to a hero again, eventually. So we have a couple stories. So if you could come up, we don't want to get feedback with the mics. So come to this side, it'd be helpful. I can kind of pull it over this way, but I just want to be careful of, well, maybe you should tell me, Levi. Maybe you should wander. Okay. So Sean's going to tell a story first.
So this would be really quick. I used to drive down here from Eugene for years. I don't know exactly, helping her rebuild houses. And oftentimes I'd stop on the side of the road and pick flowers and bring them to her. And it's no big deal, but it was just so sweet because her personality was just so grateful. And the stupid flowers I picked were just probably pretty darn pathetic compared to anything you could buy, but she was just always so grateful, and it's not something I'm really used to. So I just I miss her voice, because just basically anything she said was said in kind of a grateful tone. So.
Yeah, she had a lot of joy and a lot of, she drew people to her. Okay, Carolyn.
It's going to be tough because we can't hardly talk. But I came into the family in 1990, and then in 94, Jackie was a little baby. And so Matt and Heidi and little Jackie and Eric and I all got to go to the wedding, and Dee Dee asked if I would sing at the wedding, and it was so special to me. I mean, I never dreamed she'd even, think of that or want me to sing or any of that. But she said, "Could you sing?" And so I sang a song that I had written for Eric. And that was just this special, that was the beginnings of, really getting to know Dee Dee. We had visited them in California early on, and then we got to be at the wedding. But she was so sweet to me, and I just fell in love with her immediately. My thing was, we just laughed so much all the time, and her laugh was so contagious to me. And we would just laugh, and I would call, and she'd just, Carolyn, and just, and what are the girls doing, and what are you doing? And then and one of my bigger memories, just more recent, was I absolutely love singing, but I love going to concerts, and I had gone to Cher in Nashville, and I got on the phone with Dee Dee and Mark, and I was just elated because I'd gone my whole life and never saw Cher, and so I got to go see Cher, and I'm like, Cher is incredible, and Dee Dee was like, oh my gosh, and so this is a couple years back, and she just said, Carolyn, you're so excited about Cher, and she said, it just makes me so excited that you went. And then we talked about Elton John and how I loved Elton John. So we get off the phone, and she says to Mark, we have to get tickets for Elton John for Carolyn to go. And this was Dee Dee. Like, she said, I'm not going to be able to go to Elton John, but I just want you to tell me what it was like going to Elton John, because you're so excited. So I said, oh my gosh. So I get off the phone, and Mark says, look at your email. And I look at the email, and ticket to Elton John, who took almost 50 years to get to Elton John. But because Dee Dee said, Mark, we got to get that ticket for her to go. So I just went to Elton John and cried, because it's like, Dee Dee, she got it. Like, she wanted me to do my music. She wanted to learn how to do keyboard. I played out here for her with keyboard. She just encouraged me, and she always was just, taking care of our girls, loving us, but that contagious laugh, that total care for what we were doing, always interested in us, and just looking out for us and loving us with every part of her. So I will miss her so much.
How many of you received something from Dee Dee that she gave you? Like almost everyone, right? Like she would look for what you cared about. She would search, she'd listen, she'd pay attention, and then she would find that thing. So that was a perfect example of something that she would do. And I think everyone could tell stories about things she did that with in their own life. Anyone else want to come over here? This is Kathy. So my dad is married to Paul. This is Kathy. What? Sorry. Sorry. My dad's brother, Paul. Sorry. That was a blooper. And Paul and Kathy are married. Kathy. So I don't know how they're related, but they're somehow related. Sister-in-laws. Sister-in-laws.
It's a hard one to be the MC. It's tough. It's tough. So yeah, I met Dee Dee. I think probably 1995 in San Francisco. We were at a show and we had lunch or dinner. I'm not sure with Mark and Dee Dee. And I was like, how did that guy find this woman? Because they were so different. And yet we sat across the table from them, and she adored Mark. It was so obvious that she adored Mark. And we moved here in 1996 to Winston. And so Dee Dee and I became immediate friends. When I met Dee Dee, it was like we didn't have any catching up to do. We were immediately friends, and I know she was like that with everybody. She was the type of person that when she walked into a room, it wasn't, here I am. It was, there you are. And she loved people. We shared so much. We shared a love of old roses. And so we encouraged each other. She got about 100. I had about 300. And I blamed it onto her. I said, Dee Dee, it's your fault. And she said, I don't care, Kathy. Get another one. She just encouraged me to do that about 3 months ago. If you want that rose, you get that rose, she said. And so we did our gardens together, basically. And we did that a lot over the phone. But we talked 3-4 times a day for years. And after we sort of got our gardens in place, we went on to soap. And then we went on to chickens. And we looked up every chicken tractor we could possibly find. She built hers and Paul built mine. So, and we got chickens together. We did so much together at a distance, but nevertheless together. I always felt so close. I always felt like I could call her anytime, really day or night. And we would be together, just like we were in the same room. And so over this last... another thing we did, which we loved, is that we both, I kind of got into making rose cuttings and growing roses, and then she also got into that, and we would do that and sell them at the Oakland garage sale every year. So we had lots of people that came in and bought old roses, which gave us both a lot of pleasure, and her mother would come up every single year and sell the roses off the front porch. She loved doing that. And she was so gregarious and open and loving, and people just loved her as well as Dee Dee. And so the last, about a year ago, Dee Dee called me up and said, oh, Kathy, Victoria called and needs the names of all the roses she bought from us. And I said, what? So I left that garden behind about 9 years ago, and of course I'm 72. Do I remember roses? No. But we were able to put together the names of those roses that we had sold her, and I was able to reconnect with my dear friend who I love so dearly. So this last year has been tough. and yet beautiful in many ways. One of the things we shared more than anything was our love of the Word. She loved the Bible. And yes, she loved Jesus, and she loved the Word. And it's something that I cherish because not every friend, shares that. So I do cherish that. And one little last story is that maybe 3 months ago, 2.5 months ago, we got a puppy. Okay, so and it was a little Chihuahua Terrier. Crazy little thing. We'd never had one of those. And we didn't have her long. But I sent her a picture to Dee Dee, and Dee Dee said, "Oh, that was wonderful." And she said, Now, Kathy, watch the mail. Watch the mail. There's going to be something in the mail for you." And sure enough, there were 2 packages that came for the puppy. One was a blanket, a cuddle blanket. That came first. And then this big bag of toys. And I sent her a message and said, "Dee, you didn't need to do that. You didn't need to send her toys." And she said, "Riley says, a dog never has too many toys." And so, anyway, just typical Dee Dee. I love Dee Dee with all my heart. And I will never forget Dee Dee.
Hey. All right, this is good lighting. Great. Jeez, last time I was in the same vicinity as so many handsome people as a Victoria's Secret concert. That's amazing. All right, look at you. All right. We got good genes. That's all I'm trying to say. Anyway, one of the big things... I speak the truth. It hurt. Yeah, well, one of the big things that we've all been talking about is how everyone's like Dee Dee is absolutely delightful, which I mean, no one's going to disagree here. Or you probably shouldn't if you do. But I remember the last memory that I ever had with her, I had gotten into a crazy car accident. I broke 6 of my ribs, fractured my spine in 3 different spots. Kind of didn't think I was going to walk ever again. And I remember the biggest thing about her that was amazing was I actually stayed in the house adjacent to theirs. The guest house, which was kind of a big deal because at the time she didn't really let anybody really stay there. I mean, she'd do it because she loved us, but she let me stay there for about 2 weeks. And I remember the craziest thing about it was I was sitting there and I remember everyone visiting me and all that, and every single family member that walked in like I was a 3-year-old, like, "Hey, buddy. How you doing?" I'm like, "I'm fine." Like, what's... And I remember the one person that treated me the same was Dee Dee, and I thought to myself, like, wow, she's like not coddling me or anything, and then I realized, no, she was. It's just that's all Dee Dee ever does with me is she's just nice to me all the time. This isn't a little case where she's like, "Hi." It's just she's always super nice to me, and she always made me become a better person. I remember, gross, but first time I ever learned how to wipe was in that house. The first time I ever counted 100 was on that porch. We were sitting there and we saw a train going by, and I remember her looking at me and she goes, 1, 2, 3, and I went through. But we just kept going, and we got to 103, and it goes by, and we go, yeah! And we like ran inside, and she taught me that I probably shouldn't aim pepper spray at my face and spray myself. She taught me a lot of things. But I think the most important thing that she taught me was that I think I got from her was just a level of her care for other people. She really was a great woman, and even though we had some, I didn't get to see her that often because of the sickness at the end, I truly do believe there wasn't one moment there I was with her that I was like, that sucked. When I was talking about when I was sick, I remember I had 2 of my friends that she had never met before. They came and visited. And I remember she was really nervous about the house because let me stay in there was still like a big deal, but 2 random people she had never met before, they're 21-year-olds? No. And she was definitely really nervous at me staying there. And then I remember, like how Mark was saying, everybody describes her as delightful. I remember the first time they ever described her, they're like, wow, she's like really like nervous about us being in this house. And then by the end of the trip, she's like, yeah, she was like kind of crazy for the first day or two, but she's delightful. And it's like crazy because Mark's like talking about this. I'm like, yeah, that's like word for word the only way you can describe her. But yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is just how she literally taught me so many things that you can definitely say, yeah, that was her. I mean, yeah, she's truly, I think, somebody that not only was a good person, but I think she kind of, in a way, made us all better just by being around her. So that's what I gotta say. Thank you.
So I'm what's known as a home health physical therapist, and we go to the house if you can't leave. And so I rang the doorbell at 204 2nd Street, and you never know what's going to answer the door. I mean, it's like it can be Mother Teresa or Archie Bunker, and it's like, and everything in the middle. And so I went in, and Mark answered the door, obviously, and I met Dee Dee for the first time. And this is about just shy of a year ago, actually, when it all began, soon after getting home from the hospital. So anyway, it was, it's been a tough year in a lot of ways, and I didn't know any of you. I knew you all existed, but I had heard the names, and I meet you all now, and it's so amazing now to put the whole picture together. Now I see all these stories from basically just Mark and Dee Dee are the only people I ever knew, but I saw her all the time over that toughest year. Anyway, so I soon realized that she is very delightful, and she is, and everyone, but it did strike me after last week when she finally passed that, like, what was it about Dee Dee and Mark together? Because that's how I knew them. They were never separate. They were always together in my world. And for Dee Dee, it was this incredible paradox the last year of her life where she was so fearful of so many things, but yet she was almost fearless knowing what she was going into. She knew that there was probably no getting out of this, but yet every day when I walk in that house, it was like all these words you've all said it's just confirming why what happened to me, because I would walk in the house. She was the one bedbound. She was the one with a terminal diagnosis. She was the one going into the storm of her life. But yet it was kind of all about me when I walked in. And she would, and we knew we got into some very tough situations. When I walk in the room, there was going to be some pain. There was going to be a lot of fear because we're doing things that are painful and uncomfortable and very scary, going from a bed to a wheelchair and this device, and there's just a lot of things. But yet, she was always game on. But I try to compare that because she told me about agoraphobia, but yet she was still ultimately game on with everything. I mean, she was willing to go for it, and because she knew what needed to be done. And so is that paradox of her, that the fear but the fearlessness together was just, and the last year it was fearlessness. It was really amazing to watch her. So, but the other half of the story is Mark, because I have probably seen by now thousands of people in bad situations. Like I said, when I come to the door, it's always something's gone wrong. You've broken something. You're sick. And so I have seen the dynamics between the patient and their caregiver, the family members. There's no situation in all those thousands of patients that's anything like that house, because it's like Mark was saying, is like they were going through a very tough storm, but in some ways you would never know it, because obviously there were two very big rocks in her life, and one was obviously Jesus, and the other was Mark, because Mark treated her in a way that was unlike, like I said, these thousands of other. I mean, the dynamic, he would do anything for her, physically, emotionally, and I'd walk in there, and they had both sometimes had not very much sleep all night, and as it got on towards even more, it was even more so, but still it was an amazing thing to step foot in that house during that time. I know most of you weren't able to, but I'm here to tell you it was probably, it was the most incredible thing to see a well life lived, but part of a well life lived is dying well, and that was Dee Dee. She knew the cards that had been dealt, but yet she kept living in a way that was obviously reflective of all these stories I'm hearing. It didn't change her one bit right up to the very, very end in which I was there. So anyway, it was a pleasure. It's wonderful to meet all you all. And so anyway.
Jackie, this is one of her granddaughters.
I'm going to really try to get through this here. First, I'm going to talk for my sister who's not here, Cassie. She is here in our spirit. We all know she would be here if she could. She says Grandma Dee Dee was probably the most involved grandparent. She was never bossy, demanding, or degrading. She always had something fun to teach me, from making soap to running with the sheep. She also did things I like to do, like eat pizza and bake cakes. That was our main thing, was baking cakes. It was always so awesome. We're going to go to Grandma Mark and Dee Dee's, and we're going to make a cake. It's going to happen. She always spoke so kindly of and to Grandpa Mark, and they were always happy to be around each other. I'm so happy that I had the privilege of being her granddaughter. She is one of the most non-judgmental, kind, and loving people I know, and I will always love her. So that's from my sister, which was a little easier to get through than just me talking. So, Grandma Dee Dee. I could stand up here for 5 days and talk about Grandma Dee Dee, probably, and I will for the rest of my life. And all I know is that we always had so much fun together. Give me a second. We just always had an adventure. We always had the most fun that you could think. If you were going to Grandpa Mark and Dee Dee's, you were going to have a great time. There was no doubt about it. That's why we went there, I wonder. That's why we were there a lot. I have a lot of great memories. I really don't have anything ever that we may have done wrong. We probably weren't the greatest all the time, but we always had a great time. We always enjoyed every moment we were with them. And I mean, we made soap with Grandma Dee Dee. I told my son right here is in the front, and I said to him that basically we got to pick out the color, the scent, the mold that the soap was going to go in, and we were going to package it after, and we were going to take it even down to some of the shops down the alley and just see if someone wanted some or sell it or whatever fun things we were going to do with it. And we would do that a lot, and it was awesome. And we would always bake a cake for our birthdays, which was like where I got my passion for doing cake decorating and stuff for a lot of years. And again, it was just always, we're going there, we're going to go down to Bart's and get a cake mix and a cake, decorate it and make it fun. And we had one time where we took it out somewhere. I don't know why we took it out somewhere, but we did. And there was turkeys, I think it was, or peacocks. And we fed it to the peacocks. And Grandma Dee Dee would say, well, Jackie was like, are we going to have any, though? Are we going to eat any cake, or is it all for the peacocks? And I was always, where's the cake? Is there more cake? Are we going to eat it? Because we made it, right? So And we would sneak it. Yeah, I think she caught me through the window one time, either licking the cake or licking the frosting to go on the cake, or something to do with the cake. But she had chickens and animals that they just loved, and Skipper was also like their amazing dog that, I mean, we'll just never forget him either. And he was such a joy, and we loved running around with him and Grandpa Mark and Grandma Dee Dee, and we would go up and down all these streets and just, again, played tricks on people and have pranks and go probably, door ding dong ditch or whatever on people. And I mean, it was always full of fun and life, and Dee Dee was just such a blessing in my life that all I never know is the greatest things of her, and I will continue to know the greatest things of her and hopefully put them in this amazing boy's here life. And I'm just so sad she's gone, but we're just going to continue to remember all the wonderful things about her. I'm sorry, my hands are cold. And like even just these flowers right here, I took pictures of them earlier and smelled them. And also on this trip, we went to the rose garden. And I just the whole time was thinking of Grandma Dee Dee and just how much love and everything that she's put into my life, and just flowers. They're so simple, I feel like. But over at that house, we would help with her garden, and we would help. I just remember even the powder that we would use to have to sprinkle, and she was always such a kind, loving, easy, such a just amazing joy, period. Every time you were with her, you had a great time. You knew she loved you, and you were going to have an adventure and have fun. I'm just going to leave it at that before I continue to cry. Love you, Grandma Dee Dee.
What did she do after she caught you eating the frosting?
Nothing.
So this came from her doctor. Her doctor would come to our house, which is a little unusual in today's day and age. But he had an agoraphobic grandmother, and he always felt like he should pay it forward, and he came to work with Dee Dee. He never came after she was hospitalized. There's a reason. That's not because he didn't want to. He wanted to tell her some information she really didn't want to hear, so I blocked it. But he was in Grand Canyon, and he called me, and he said, I want to read this to you, and I want you to share it with the family. Dr. Hersher, I was Dee Dee's physician, and I really enjoyed taking care of her for 2 reasons. She was always very kind to me. Number 2, her hospitality. She always was there to welcome me into her home with a friendly smile, and never did I hear a negative tone from her. Something else I observed while visiting Dee Dee was the love and devotion of her husband. He cared for her faithfully until the end. A great example for anyone. I am thankful that she is no longer suffering, and because she loved Jesus, she has the promise of an eternal home with him. Quote, he will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. I look forward to that day, and I know she did too.
So while he makes that call, I think Rick wanted to say something. He needs to read. His wife couldn't be here today, but they were dear friends.
Thanks. So I'm Rick, and we moved to Oakland in the 90s and bought the building across from Stearns, but I had to go back down to California to finish up my job for about 4 to 6 months. So during that time, somehow Dee Dee and my wife Liz connected, and I'm not sure if Liz was down at the building and Dee Dee was walking, and they met somehow, but they connected right away. So they built a friendship during those months while I was still in California. So when I came up here, one of my earliest memories was my wife bringing me up to meet Mark and Dee Dee, and we were standing on the porch talking about our places where we lived and grew up in California, and somehow during that conversation, I can't remember exactly how it happened, but we realized that we had family in common. Wow. And so the pastor that married us, his wife, Joni Romano, They're super good friends of ours. But her father was Augie Romano, who was an American Airlines pilot. And he was also a really good friend of my father-in-law, who also was an American Airlines pilot. So I don't know if the pilot that Mark was talking about earlier is a son of his.
Maybe. Greg might know. Greg might know.
Yeah. So anyways, that's my earliest memory, but it was just amazing, so amazing to us that we came from totally different parts of California and we were connected in that way. So that was like an instant connection. But so I have something to read from Liz since she's not here. And she says, when I think of Dee Dee, I'm sure I think of all those same wonderful attributes that each of you think of: kind, funny, bubbly, empathetic. But one of the things that always comes to mind when thinking of Dee Dee is courage. Dee Dee's a very brave and courageous person. She pushed through concerns or fears in order to try new things. And here's another soap story. So everybody has a connection to Dee Dee through soap, I guess. She had never made soap before, but wanted to, so she researched techniques, fragrances, molds, ingredients, packaging, and did it. For years, we spent evenings making goat milk soap together, and she created a small business selling the results. I remember laughing over the mistakes and dreaming of holiday scents and molds we would try next. Soap was only one of the adventurous and courageous steps Dee Dee shared with me. Wool and creating products from wool was another, and her tremendous love for animals was yet another. She was not afraid to bring home a feral cat or adopt a sheep. She was courageous enough to know that her love and devotion for these animals in need of a home was a good starting place, and she would figure it out from there. Dee Dee has inspired me to recognize that it takes all kinds of courage in this world, and she has left me with the knowledge that even when you do not know everything about a subject or how to do a task, start with a desire, love and devotion, and build on it from there. You will have some mistakes, but take the time to laugh at them, and when you have success, enjoy, and then try something else. Dee Dee, thank you for helping me be a braver person. Thank you for helping me to keep dreaming even through my mistakes. And thank you, Mark, for being the person who applauded her courage in trying new things and dreaming big. I love you, Mark and Dee Dee, and I'm so thankful for the many years of friendship we have all shared. Miss you, my dear friend, Liz. So I also have memories of, just like Sean, I spent a lot of time over at Mark and Dee Dee's doing some construction over there. So it was always amazing to me because she was so encouraging, and it's like you were like doing some amazing renovation for free for her or something, because she was so complimentary and just always heaped the praise on no matter what you did. So I was so thankful for that. And I also have a couple funny stories to tell about Dee Dee. And one of them is we also shared antiques between the two of us, and we had the antique store that was across from Stearns for 20 years. So when Dee Dee and I were together, or I was doing construction at her house, we would talk antiques, and any of you that know her would know that she loved to collect little kids things. And but the funny thing was, she loved little kids' antiques, but she hated dolls. Any kind of a doll would freak her out. So once I found that out, anytime I was out looking for things, if I found a creepy doll, I would text a picture to her and send it to her. So that was our little bantering thing that we did. So, and the other funny story I have, and I think Betty Tam left, but one of the times I was in my store working, she called me up on the phone and she said, Rick, you're never going to believe what happened. And I said, what? She's like, you can't believe this. And I'm like, what? She's like, Skipper bit the mayor. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, Skipper bit the mayor. She thought that was like the funniest thing in the world. And I'm thinking, is she going to get sued? So anyways, Betty would get a kick out of that. So that's my Dee Dee story.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay, we're going to try this. We don't know if this will work. We have Jackie, right?
Yep, Jackie.
Where's the speaker?
I got it. Jackie,
Oh, good idea.
Laura, And Gordon.
Can you guys hear?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the family in California that Dee Dee got to reconnect with recently. And I got to tell you, the look on her face when she would talk to these people was magical because it had been so long. You know, it should never have happened, but had nothing to do with her. And they know that, and everybody lost, but they got together at the end. And for about a year, they've been on the phone together and sharing frequently, et cetera. So they have stories to tell. You're on.
Hi. This is Auntie Laverne. Call me Dee.
She's 85.
And so I
It's
was
the
going
car.
to tell the story about when we were at the beach house at Pajara Dunes down near Santa Cruz in California. One night, it was after Christmas, and the family together, maybe there were 12 of us in this house, and they had all gone to bed except Laura, Jackie, and I, and Deed, and we were sitting in front of the fireplace, crossing from each other, and Jackie and I were smoking cigars, and we were waiting because we had tied up the refrigerator because we knew we had some sleepwalkers in the house eating at night. So we had fixed the refrigerator so it would make quite a noise and if anyone went in there. As we're sitting there talking, smoking the cigars, to our surprise, in comes Frank, Deed's father, Frank, and he came in right, stood in front of us because we were sitting across from each other in front of the fire. He walked in between us eating potato chips and stoked the fire and never once noticed any of us or that we were smoking cigars. And that was the funniest part because we really expected to find my sister, Adrene, Frank's sister. So then we laughed because we realized we had two of them that walked around at night eating and not even realizing. I guess it's a form of sleepwalking. And we've laughed over that for years. But then the real story is Laura and Deed got together in their little prankster mood, and they had taken pictures of Jackie and I smoking the cigars. And the following year, people were saying, gee, we got your Christmas card. It's really different. Thanks. And turned out that they took a picture of us smoking the cigars and used that to produce a Christmas card and had our names on it. You know, Love, Laverne, and Jackie. So that's one of the big pranksters that I remember. Here's Jackie.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Okay, we probably have more stories than I'll be able to tell, but these guys were always, Lori and Deed were the pranksters every time at Christmas, no matter where we went together as a family. We never knew what they were going to pull on us this time. We always had to be prepared. You know, one of the things was always check the bed before you get in the bed. Always check the bed. Don't get in there because there's going to be a hairbrush, which feels like a spider or some kind of thing if you've never gotten into a bed unexpecting something. Yeah, they were always putting something in the bed or short sheeting the bed. They were always doing something. One other time that they got me was that, first of all, they would put little beans that you would cook for dinner in my toothpaste container. So, you know, you go to brush your teeth and you're squeezing it out. You're squeezing this tube and it will not squeeze. All of a sudden, it let go and a bunch of beans flew out. And the same thing with those beans. They put a bunch of them in my briefcase. So I'm going to work after the holidays, and I'm opening up my briefcase to give a presentation. And here comes all the beans spilling out. I guess that's the other thing is always check your purse, your briefcase, and everything else when you leave these people because you could never tell. You could never tell what was coming up the next thing. So, Lori, do you want to go and say something or? Hi, I'm Lori, Deed's cousin. When we were kids, young, like 6 and 8 or something, we went to Tahoe every year. Our 3 families, Frank and Grace, and Marietta and Benny, and my parents and the kids. We would rent a big house in Tahoe for 2 weeks. My cousin Diane's boyfriend came up one year, and Diane and Dee and I were sleeping in one room, and we came up with this plan for Greg. The boyfriend had a Volkswagen, so we told Greg to get in the back of the Volkswagen, and because they were going to go out for a ride or something, and so Greg got in the back of the Volkswagen. We told him to wait till they got down to the end of the street, and then jump up and say hi. And so the 2 of us were like watching the Volkswagen go down the street, driving. All of a sudden, brakes go on, and they're stopped, and then Greg comes out of the car. So we thought that was great. So she was thinking of these things long time ago. We at one point we were at one year we made up a dance, the 2 of us. We just talked about it the other couple weeks ago about we made a dance up with like the pine needle things, and we had this whole big dance for the whole family, but they didn't take a movie of it, but they took this movie of my brother and cousin making a war out of the army war instead, so we were pretty upset about that. Back to the Christmas card, every year after that, when there would be a weird picture, we'd always say, next year's Christmas card, as a threat to everybody. Jackie, anybody? In defense of all of us that have grown up and done these tricks to each other, our families, I always say, well, it's because there was no TV in those days. But when I was a kid, I'm the aunt, so Dee Dee's aunt. When I was a kid and maybe in grammar school, I remember we went to the movies, my mother, father, and sister, and Frank, Dee Dee's dad. We went to the movies. When we came home, we said, didn't we eat dinner? Didn't we do the dishes? The whole table was just as if we left. We had eaten. The pots and pans were dirty on the stove. Turns out our cousins came down to visit us, like Lori's parents, and they came down to visit us, and we weren't home. So while they waited, they just cooked up a meal, enjoyed themselves, and then wrote a note, thank you, and then left the mess. So it had been going on for a long time, back and forth. So here's Jackie. I don't know.
I have one other story that I never remember, and it was, they always seem to find ways to get you when you're away from the crowd. So I was at the gym one day, and this is in Los Altos, and Lori and Deidre would snuck down they knew where I was going to the gym, and they snuck down and found my car in the parking lot at the gym. And it was kind of a moist day, a little bit of overcast, and a little bit of sprinkling rain. And they took one of the toilet seat covers out of a bathroom, the little round thing that you put on the toilet seat, and they put it on my rear window. So when I got in the car and started driving away, you look in your rear view window and there's a toilet seat cover. So these are kind of some of the things that we went around and had to notice with Deidre, the prankster, and her cohort, Lori.
Once we were at Pajaro Dunes, and 4 of us, we went downtown, and we were parked on Main Street. And we went in the clothing stores, like women's do, and Jackie and I and Mimi was there, and so Dee's grandmother, and so we came back after about an hour or more, and we went to get in the car, and it started driving, and we heard all this racket and noise. We had 10 cans in the back, and there was a sign, just married, and there were 10 cans streaming from under and making all this noise, and we had to go from downtown Watsonville all the way out to the beach, which was maybe 3 or 4 miles, making all this noise and just married. I'm sure Lori and Dee stayed up nights thinking of these things.
Okay, thank you
Gordon,
very,
did you have
very
anything?
much. Whoop, thank you very much. They just turned off the mute. So is that it?
Okay.
You want to say goodnight to everybody?
Good night, everybody.
Why don't you all say it to them?
Good night.
Good night, Dee. Love you, Dee.
Thanks for including us.
Good night, guys.
Thank you.
Whoop, I hit it. Okay.
So Levi and Alicia, come on up.
Okay. I'm Dee Dee's granddaughter, and I was actually just talking to Jackie, my cousin, and saying a lot of what she said was what I felt too. Like, as a kid, coming to Grandpa and Dee Dee's was always, it was always like very magical, and you weren't doing anything really out of the ordinary, right? You're like helping in the rose garden or baking and making soaps, but she made everything so fun and like special. It all seemed exciting. Like, even when coming, like, I'd first get to their house and we'd stay because we didn't live in Oregon, and we'd stay and she'd let me choose my pillowcase, and she has all these old vintage pillowcases that are embroidered, and then you get to choose the soap that you want for the week. And of course, as young kids, you're learning about hygiene, so she's like, let me smell your hands after you go to the bathroom. Did you really wash your hands? And all of those little things that it was just so fun. Like, at night, we'd go out with our flashlights and like walk through the garden and squash all the snails, because snails will eat all of your plants, and like go look for cats throughout the neighborhood because I loved cats. And it was just always so fun. But with her and Grandpa, I remember as an older grandkid, me and my brother one time were driving down, and we ended up getting a late start, and so we're like, we're going to be there so late, you guys. Like, you don't have to wait up. And we pull up the street, and we see them outside. And we're like, what are they doing out there? And Dee Dee's on the ground with this flashlight looking up in the tree, and Grandpa's on a ladder trimming the tree. It's like 2 a.m. and they're outside. We're like, what are you guys doing? Oh, we were just waiting for you, so we figured we'd get some stuff done. And so I feel like that's the perfect example of them too. Like, he's being a daredevil up in the tree in the middle of the night, and she's just there supporting him. Yep, this is great. You do that. So it was always so fun. And I mean, it's hard because you really can't describe her. Like, she's definitely one of a kind and will be very missed.
And that's a new great grandbaby right there coming.
Not me. Alicia's pregnant. I'm an old grandbaby. So me and Alicia, we spent tons of summers here, so I echo everything all the grandkids say. 2 quick stories because I know we're over on time. One, Alicia was saying it's so hard to describe Dee Dee to people who haven't met her, and I think it was so fun for me. I got married to Nikki a few years back, and when we got engaged, I wanted to tell Grandpa and Dee Dee, and she hadn't met them before. And so we were going to call, and I was like, Dee Dee is going to be crazy. She's going to go nuts. Like, she'll be so excited. And Nikki's like, yeah, okay, whatever. And I'm like, no, you're going to love it. And so we call him, and you hear Dee Dee on the phone. She's like, okay, what is it? Okay, what, do I need to sit down? So I sit down, and she's just like so excited. And we tell her, and it's just like feedback on the phone, screaming, just oh my gosh, just like a million words a minute, and Nikki's face is just like couldn't even. You can't describe what Dee Dee's like until you meet her. So super fun. And then the last one, because I think we should end on a prank for this. My favorite prank of Dee Dee's was we'd always come down here for Christmas and get presents, and Grandpa and Dee Dee would make a huge deal about presents, like always, and like, oh, everything had a special story and meaning. And this one year, they were building up this one big present for us, talking about it forever, didn't know what it was. They like keep bringing it up. Dee Dee's like, do you have that? And they finally do it, and it's a movie, and it's a weird box, like weird movie. I can't remember the name. This doesn't end with a recommendation, so you don't need to know the name. But they're like, we had to find this. It's an amazing movie. They're like, it is the best movie. We like loved it. It was, they just were raving about it. And so we go home and we like sit down to watch this as a family, and it is terrible. And it's not just bad acting. It gets like really bad, like weird, violent, like really crazy. And so my dad is the first one to bail. He's like, I don't want to watch this. And then me and Alicia are like, yeah, I don't know. Like this is weird. And my mom is like, there must be something. Like, I don't know why they recommended this. It has to be good. Like, and watches the whole thing. And then we talked to them. And we're like, yeah, we watched that movie. And they just start dying, laughing. They're like, I can't believe you watched it. Wasn't that terrible? And we're like, yeah, but it was like really terrible. Like that was like a weird prank. And they're like, oh, we turned it off after 2 minutes. We didn't even watch any of it. And it's like, oh man. But yeah, Dee Dee was always pranking, and she was so sincere, but so she knew it. She knew she could trick you with those things, and it just brought tons of joy in our life. So we'll miss Dee Dee for sure.
Well, one thing that we can definitely say is that Dee Dee she loved deeply, and she was loved deeply. So that's definitely something that's true about her.